Um, Kevin, I don't know how many people are in this room. I'm the moderator for it.
Okay, this is Dr. Perfect.
It's Dr. Perfect, that's correct.
Nice
And
to meet you.
it says I cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. So I can't see you or anybody, I guess. So what I'd like to do, if I can, I assume people can actually ask questions and stuff, but I think I'd like for you, we got 30 minutes or so, for you to present what you would like to present about where Viacor is, and particularly in clinical diagnostics related to fungi, or how you would want to get there, what availability you have, et cetera, what you want to know from us. So I'm going to let you start.
Well, perfect. It says I'm sharing my screen. If anybody can confirm that you can see the EuroFins Viacor.
Yeah, I can, Kevin.
All right. Two major hurdles overcome. You can see my screen and I'm not on mute. That's a win in my book.
I believe it is.
Well, I appreciate everybody making the time to talk with us today. As I was speaking earlier, fantastic sessions. Really enjoyed the presentations and the sharing of knowledge. So just a little bit about who EuroFins Viacor is. Some of you may know us as Viacor. Our parent company is EuroFins. About a year ago, we underwent the name change where parent company EuroFins and then business unit Viacor. Naming happened across our entire group of entities, but we are still Viacor. We call ourselves Viacor. Officially, it's EuroFins Viacor, but most of us know us as Viacor. We've been in the business for over 30 years, had been located outside of the Kansas City metro area for most of those 30 years, and are really excited to announce that we have just opened up a brand new state-of-the-art facility on the Kansas side of the Kansas City area, where we've been able to incorporate 3 different business units within one footprint for laboratory testing. So fantastic news for us. We'll be having announcements. You may have seen some announcements on our social media posts, but we offer over 3,000 tests in our catalog. So we touch infectious disease, immunology, allergy testing, an entire plethora of assays out there. But our main goal, our main focus is realizing that, your patient is much more than a specimen to you. It's much more than a specimen to us. We want to make sure that we're providing accurate, actionable, and timely results to y'all. For immunocompromised patients, immunochallenged patients, any patient with critical needs out there. And you'll find with the majority of our testing, let's see if this will change. Come on. Every presenter's a little bit different. Most of our assays, with PCR-based assays and such, it's about a 24-hour turnaround once we receive the specimen before results are sent out or available to the submitter. We can do this either through fax testing at HLA7 interfaces, or we have a new or a revised smart device application called Lab Alert, where results are made available to everybody. But you can see in the middle of the screen, we do have a pretty broad list of fungal testing out there, different species, different targets, but also a wide variety of sample types with these assays. We also offer antifungal drug level testing for the azoles through LC-MS testing.
Kevin,
yes.
Quick thing. Again, to emphasize for me and for the group, what's the rough turnaround time for some of these antigen tests, or for the drug levels? Just give us an idea, because one of the things that happens a lot in clinical practice is you may have access to these things, but if they're not timely, things move really fast on the wards and stuff like that. So I just want to kind of emphasize what is your general turnaround time on this testing.
So for the majority of our PCR-based assays, it's 8 to 12 hours after we receive the specimen that an answer is available. Oops.
Mhm.
Make sure I'm not sharing the wrong desktop. Uh, for those, so I say 24 hours. Of course, your sample has to get sent to us, get delivered to the laboratory, processed and such. So
Yeah.
generally, within about 24 hours of sample submission, you should have your PCR testing. Depending on what type of test it is, it's normally out within 48 hours. The result
Mhm.
back to y'all. And again, whether it's done through, traditional email, fax, resulting HL7 interfacing, or through our Lab Alert mobile device resulting
Mhm.
platform for y'all. We will have a couple of assays. We're actually today, and it was one of the topics on the call today, is for our Aspergillus real-time PCR panel, which looks at pan Aspergillus, Aspergillus terreus, and Aspergillus fumigatus. We are, as of today, offering up tissue sample testing. So either fresh frozen or FFPE tissue samples can be submitted for testing with this the pan Aspergillus panel.
Okay.
So that's going to be 2 to 4 days after we receive the sample for the results to be available on that.
Okay, can I go
Initially,
back? Can I go back over that again, Kevin? Because that's new. We've always sent our stuff off to the University of Washington, and I actually am quite attracted by the tissue sampling and PCR and sequencing. So you
yeah,
say you have this now 2 to 4 days. Aspergillus terreus, fumigatus, flavus
a species.
species.
Yeah,
What about the other fungal species?
those are the three that we highlighted. Like I
Uh-huh.
said, fumigatus, terreus, and species. Yeah, um, are the three in our panel.
Uh-huh.
We are constantly looking at and figuring out how we can best serve you, how we can best serve the patients that you all service. So we do have opportunities to do customized panels or to expand upon panel testing. So we're happy to talk with you, happy to talk with anybody about what the needs are. We've got probably a little biased, but I think a very good, very creative R&D team that are looking for new ways to get the answers out to everybody in a quicker, timelier manner, or to look at a specific target that is of interest to you or to others. So
Yeah.
if there's ways that we can, we're more than happy to sit down and talk and to see if there's ways to partner with you or to gain information from you that will help out the industry as a whole, in taking care of these critical patients that you all service.
Yeah. So Kevin, I don't want to spend forever on that, but it's an area that I personally think is quite needed and needs just more emphasis on it, timing, et cetera, et cetera. We have an awful lot of tissue that ends up getting put in formalin before it ever goes to the laboratory, even if you
Yes.
could culture it. And nothing more frustrating than to have it seeing the organism and not knowing what it is.
Yes.
For us, a little bit, the Aspergillus thing, that's kind of okay. I mean, the difference between terreus and flavus and fumigatus might help us a little bit on what drugs we use. But again, I would say, as was mentioned by Nathan, we should be pretty good at telling mucor from Aspergillus histopathologically, but I'm not sure we are. And it's a dramatic difference in having a mucorales in there or compared to an Aspergillus as far as treatment. So I think as you've newly got this thing up, I would surely kind of talk and see how it goes with the ability to be a little broad spectrum. I mean, I know QC wise and various primers and various things, you really have focused on Aspergillus, but I wouldn't be against trying to figure out some of the pan stuff and then being able to sequence and identify.
I would say you've been reading our minds.
Well, yeah, I
You
mean, the
got to
difference.
dip your toe in the water first and make sure it works.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think this. I mean, the University of Washington has done this for a couple of years now, and I think they finally got it kind of right. And I've seen some pretty good results from their group. But you're right. I mean, it's me easily saying, "I'll just do all of them. I want to know which one it is,"
Right.
and the ability to QC it properly, et cetera, and start out. But I do find this a very attractive area to continue to explore and potentially helpful to us, particularly if you could turn these things around in 2 to 4 days. One of the problems I have a lot of times is just, it takes too long. Things are going too fast, and and we still don't know.
Right. Right. No, I fully understand. I've come from a laboratory background, and the importance of rapid but also accurate
Accurate.
resulting um, for this. So it does take. We're cautious in that aspect. We want to make sure that what we're putting out there is available to the market is the best possible assay we can put out there with
Yes.
the fastest turnaround time possible. Again, because knowing the impact of this into the outcome of the patient, is
Can I ask you a
important.
couple other questions? Is it okay, or you want to keep talking?
Um, I'm happy to talk. I'm a talker. I really only have
Okay.
one more slide, and it just kind of wraps
Okay.
up and says, "Hey, thanks. Let's talk."
Oh, okay, good. Well, let's keep it on this slide so I can remember what I want to say. A couple things. So I see in your drug monitoring levels, you got the azole compounds. I'm a little surprised. I mean, one of the problems I think we have is not many people doing it. I mean, one of the most misunderstood drugs I think of all times is flucytosine, and we always say we're going to do drug levels. No one does them because it takes too long to get them to someplace and get them back and stuff. I'm just interested in why, with recommendations for TDM kind of stuff from the guidelines, that you didn't decide to do flucytosine also.
That's a great question, and complete transparency, I have no clue why we didn't.
Yeah,
I've actually have taken over this product line as of the middle of January, so 4 months ago.
yeah,
So I'm still learning the history of the whys and the hows, but
mhm,
also asking the questions. Why not? Why have we not explored this? Why have we not looked at this? And that is on one of my lists, is to look at expanding the antifungal drugs as to what's really relevant and needed out there in the market. I think if we can, you know, work on the azoles, we should be able to get
yeah.
other therapeutics in there as well.
Yeah, I just think that you guys are so good at moving things down and getting things back and fast and stuff like that. I just put out there just to think about flucytosine and how long it takes, so that people say, "Oh, it takes too freaking long," and for us to get it back and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so anyway, just a thought that was one thing that popped up. On the other side, I'm quite interested. Your Mucorales real-time PCR, is
Uh-huh.
that's up and going, huh?
That's up
And
and going. That's been going for about a year now, I believe.
so is it frequently used?
We're not seeing the response that we would think we would from it, but it is a pretty well utilized assay. I mean, my experience, I think we could see a lot more utilization of the assay than we do. Um, but that's
Yeah.
just getting it to a to being better known. From the tone of your voice, you were a bit surprised to see that. So we need to do a better job. I need to do a better job of getting that information out there. That yes, we have this.
It's approved. Is it FDA approved, and does insurance pay for it?
It's not FDA approved. The majority of our assays are LDTs. So we develop them ourselves. We control them and such, so they don't go through the 510K FDA process. It depends on certain assays, and I can't remember Mucorales. I know New York State. It's approved for New York State with and I don't want to say the specimen type because I'm sure I would be wrong with that. Insurance does pay for some, but it doesn't, cover all. And I don't have that information off the top of my head as to exactly what's not covered.
Can I, again, I'm going to ask, is there other people that would like to ask questions? Please ask Kevin questions. I don't want to dominate this, but I do have other questions if we won't have crickets here.
Hi, John. This is
Yes.
Vishnu. We don't mind you dominating because it's all in the right direction. I have two very quick questions. So in the middle panel that you have the asterisks on tests available for New York sample. So a majority of these tests are LDTs. So your galactomannan is your own. Your histoplasma versus aspergillus galactomannans are two separate tests that you have in-house development.
No, those are not our own. Those are
Commercial.
Commercial assay. Yes.
Okay. And then the last part here, the fungus plus PCR profile 1 and 2. Is this a more complex panel, and is this still in development, or what's the deal with New York State not approving this particular one?
That's a great question. I'll have to take it down as a note and get back to you on. The Fungal Plus Profile 1 is, oh goodness. Yeah, everything's working but the brain here, sorry. I believe it's aspergillus. One of them includes nocardia and then the mucorales, along with aspergillus and, oh booger, sorry. It just completely escaped me.
No worries, no worries. Please keep moving forward. And
yeah, if you go to the website, EuroFins-Vircore.com/clinical, and then open up the link inside for fungal assays. It'll take you to the panels, and you can click on there and see everything associated with the panels. It'll also list out what is New York approved, what samples are New York approved, and what samples are not New York approved.
So as a general rule, Kevin, would you say over 95% of our tests are New York State approved?
Large portion of them are 90+%. Yes, I don't know if I'd say 95% again without sitting down and going through them line by line, but significant number of our assays are New York State approved. Yes, for fungal testing.
Anybody else have any questions for Kevin? Again, I don't want to dominate this thing, so this is an opportunity. We got about 9 minutes or so, and he's right in the middle of this thing, and there's some interesting issues around fungal testing, things that I actually didn't realize he had. So anybody have any further questions? And if not, I'll ask some more. Okay.
Okay.
Please, anybody can just interrupt me right in the middle of it. But and Kevin, are you okay that you've presented what you wanted to? Your last slide is just a general slide.
Yeah, it just basically says, we're
Okay.
EuroFins Vircore, fungal testing, invasive fungal diseases, et cetera. That's one branch of everything we do. All of these touch other diseases, other causation agents and such, but, transplantation, a huge portion of our business, transplant patients come down with fungal diseases. COVID-19, we had a long discussion about the emergence of aspergillus infections with, your COVID patients. And even now we got, long haulers coming out with COVID and such, and finally understanding the mechanisms of all this that's going on with them and the susceptibility or increased susceptibility to different diseases. So yeah, that was pretty much what it was. I'll go back to this slide because we all like to talk about it.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep you on this slide, but
No, this is fine. I'm enjoying this.
Okay,
I've been working remotely for 2.5 years, so it's me talking to the dogs usually. So talking with real people is exciting.
okay, well, I still may be a dog. You don't know yet. At least a barking dog. Okay, so the question I have is just in general with the last few minutes. First of all, I am attracted by the fact that I don't know that you guys have a Ukulele's real-time PCR, and that can be done both on blood and on DL and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I say that is that like was mentioned before with Nathan, maybe with Dr. White, my experience sometimes when we've done these things, usually get them through Carius, which is way out there, but that the mucorales can be diagnosed maybe for their angio-invasive type stuff with PCRs. I can't tell you how sensitive they are, but I think it's something that should be put in the mix when you're trying to get that infiltrate that you can't really do a biopsy on in a really high risk patient population. So we need to think about that. And I would say to you, maybe it's just me, that we didn't even know about this fungal test. At least I didn't about that and the aspergillus. I'm willing to take a little bit of the risk because I think you've taken some of the risk of QCing this. We just have to clinically integrate it. So I would say to you, I would probably, I don't know, maybe it's just I didn't look for it, but continue to make sure people know about your portfolio of fungal testing, including the parafilm, the fresh tissue, et cetera type stuff, which I find very attractive, and only a few places do it.
Yes.
I wanted to ask another question on diagnostics, and this is just a general question. At the end of this, you are a big diagnostic company for, in particularly infectious disease transplants and stuff. I have this impression that this last couple years have been pretty good for diagnostic companies. I think COVID paid them a lot of money, and so they're kind of out there being able to grow. And maybe I'm wrong, but being able to grow and take on more time of maybe diagnostic development, whatever you want to call it, than they had before. Is that true, or is that just me blowing off?
Well, I can tell you that personnel-wise, we brought on a significant number of individuals to help us keep up with the testing. It's out there public knowledge, so I can say this. We, EuroFins, our biopharma group, had partnered with Moderna to help them get their vaccine to market first. So we had a lot of work with them on that aspect, and then going into the COVID testing. We're ramping back up now into R&D, looking at new assays, new opportunities, whether it's acquisition or self-development. And that has been kicked off and going gangbusters, so to speak. So yes, you're going to see a lot of innovation from us and new assays being brought out, looking at new targets, new methodologies, and our pipeline's very full, but we're also welcome to take any suggestions or talk to anybody about thoughts on ways to make things better, or perhaps a new assay that needs to be brought to market.
Well, one of the questions, of course, we have is you got these assays, you develop them. Would you be interested in the kind of connection or collaboration with people that have biorepositories, for instance, with a series of samples? Because you can make these tests as good as you can make, but you really got to be able to validate them. And so the question is, are you receptive to kind of collaborations, connections with people that have a whole mess, well, not a whole mess, but a series of patients with documented disease that could validate some of your things?
We're always welcome to discuss opportunities like that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we do work with folks on our transplant side with biorepositories So again, taking over the fungal portfolio, it's one of the things that I'm looking at as well.
Great. Well, for us, one of the things we do a lot of times is we're subservient to the people that can actually get the testing up, get it going, get it QC, et cetera, et cetera. But back behind us, hopefully, if we're good at this thing, we can either prospectively or classically retrospectively get specimens for people to validate their testing. And that kind of collaboration connection, I think, is should be helpful for both.
All right. One thing, we had the question earlier about the fungal plus PCR 1 and 2. The fungal 1 PCR panel is Aspergillus, mucorales, and nocardia. Fungal 2 adds in the pneumocystis jirovecii to those 3.
Okay. Well,
We have just about 2 minutes left.
We got 2 minutes left.
Just about.
Okay, Kevin, it's all yours to finish up.
No, I appreciate the time. Great dialogue. I don't know how you say try and put my contact information out there. I'll put it in the chat box or like that. So feel free to send me an email or.
Yeah, I think make sure
Yeah.
you give it to the MSG ERC, Debbie and them. And also, I would encourage you or others to come to our meeting in the fall, where you can. Hey, we may have a live meeting here, and to have you come and kind of hear and see from some of the people that deal with all these infections. So I would encourage you to.
I keep trying, but you keep changing it. No.
I understand that.
I think
that
this
has
is
been
the
a problem.
third time's a charm, right?
That's what we're going to say. Third time is a charm.
No, looking forward to it.
Good.
Looking forward to it. I've been sitting in on these calls quite frequently, and when the opportunity came up, it's like, let's do it.
Okay.
So do appreciate the chance to do this and to talk with everybody.
We're going back to the main session.